know there ain't no stopping us. Fly without a boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I'll be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let 'em know who you are. Flying up in a bar. Wish on a star. Time to show 'em who's in charge. Call me a shooting star.
Didn't even get to cross.
I said I'm moving too far. Get to glass. Looking at a shooting star. Got more than a couple of people going mad. I swear they're rooting hard. Tell them I be big in the game like she went and got them breast implants. I said I'm moving too fast. Didn't even get to glance. I'm ready to eat up track like I'm seated in a restaurant. If you had swag like mine, you know it's best to flaunt. We aren't hating because you want. Shining like it's neon. Rock like kings of Leon. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, then I just have to leave. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, then I just have to leave. Yeah, shoot. Yeah, shoot.
Well, hello everyone. Okay, great. My mic actually worked tongue-tied. First time this time. I think I need some wine. Like a little cheese with that wine. There we go. All right, so we're going to be getting back to, there we go, that's a little better. Talking about our commie friends over at the People's Party. But before we do that, and Kenny, yes, you said about time you watched it live, huh? I want to pull up my chat widget so that everyone can see the chats. And before we get started, as usual, that's hidden. Below, you can find my Patreon if you support the type of work that I do. Please consider becoming a patron. And as I said last night, I'd come up with a new bonus for $20 a month and above patrons that if you have a liberty-oriented product, a show, a YouTube channel, a podcast, or a business that's ran according to libertarian principles, I would love to promote it on my show, and that will be one of the bonuses to my $20 a month and up patrons. And as I said last night, I'm not going to talk about this every show because I don't want it to become old, but here's the first one. This is Sean Dempsey out of New Hampshire. I met him up at PorkFest. He's one of the great New Hampshire people who wrote this children's book called A Tale of Two Brothers. And it's a liberty-oriented story that teaches children the life lesson of life being more than just physically like blood pumping through your veins, but actually that living life to its fullness involves risks, not merely being biologically alive. You can pick this up for your 5 to 12-year-old children or loved ones in your life at tale2brothers.com or on Amazon. All right, Well, excuse me. I'm sorry, I've got a little bit of a cough and I had just gotten over it. But I find when I'm quiet all day, like I used to walk around and talk to myself. Apparently I've gotten better at that because my voice is unused when I sit down to do a broadcast. And I do have a job interview tomorrow morning, but I'm not sure if it's what I want to do. In other words, I quit my other job because I was so miserable, it was killing me, literally. And this might be the same kind of firm. I don't know. I said I'll talk to him tomorrow. And I'm getting ready for the 9 o'clock stream, 9 Mountain, where we're going to talk some LP Inside Baseball. I'm going to do another RCV demonstration. So I started getting I filled at least these mostly out. I've got all the rounds, you know, like Whitney round 1, Ken round 1. You know, I've got all the LNC members on here. And I've got 4 rounds set up, but I need to put their votes on these little posties. So let me put that aside. And my hands are completely dry. Ugh, it's lavender scent, though. I get all these in these, like, beauty boxes, which I haven't bought in a while because, A, I don't have the budget for it. But plus, I had an overabundance of supplies. This one I never even opened. I don't know if I'm going to be able to open that with these claws. Look at those. Didn't get any lotion in my mouth. That would have been gross. Okay. I normally hate lavender, so... Oh, that don't smell too bad. It doesn't smell very lavendery. Oh, I didn't really get the time to really do some stabby. Whoa. Okay. That opened it. Stabbed it with the rat tail comb. Okay. Oh, and if you're wondering what this thing is on my head, I have curlers on. Because this is a... Oh, I don't like... Oh, God, no. I hate lavender. Ooh, it's awful. No. Oof, no. I'll give this to somebody who likes lavender. It's a very expensive lotion, but I hate the smell of lavender. I didn't think it was too strong, but it's too... Oh, God, it's awful. Help me, Lord. I need some... Oh, let me get some perfume to get rid of that smell. What is this? This is Juicy Couture Glistening Amber. Okay. Oof. Okay, this is from Scentbird. I love my Scentbird stuff. Maybe Scentbird, or actually this is Scentbox. Same kind of thing. I like both Scentbird and Scentbox. Maybe one of them will sponsor me because I love my perfume. I just hate lavender. All right. I've tried to figure out, let me take this off. Okay. I've tried to figure out how I can keep the chat on the screen going while switching between scenes, because each time you reload the chat box, it erases the chats. I may have figured it out. I know you don't know the program I'm using, but I have Ecamm where you set up each thing in scenes. So rather than setting a new scene for this view you're seeing right here, I'm just going to go to a clip and go back to the scene, hoping the chat box will stay loaded, if that made sense. So it's not going to be quite as graceful in between scenes, but if it keeps the chat box loaded, that will be worth it. And I want to turn this around because that... And I've got curlers on, so it's hard to get it. You can see I'm poking through here because that cord was kind of in my way. I need to get a wireless headset for in here. That cord is just terrible. But okay, so let's get started. We've got 2 national calls to listen to. One from late June. Oh, you want to... No, I wanted to look up something too. Hold on one second. Let me look something up. They talk about in this call some kind of major, like, Medicare for all march they're going to be doing, and I'm wondering if that's already passed. Because if it's not, so I don't know what it's called. I'm going to call it Medicare for All National March, because it's going to be all over the country, and I think it may have already passed. But let me see. I'm looking it up. Okay, Medicare for All homepage. Let me see. I don't see a protest planned. Everybody in. Huh. Okay, maybe in the blog. If y'all could look that up too for me while I'm trying to find it. Some big march that's going on in like 15 cities or has already gone on. And they only talked about it on July 8th, so it would have been really recent if it happened already. Get involved? No. Coming actions. Okay, let's see. I might need to go to the People's Party website. They got a virtual texting party? That's not it. It looks like they're all very COVID scared and they're not doing anything in person. So let me go to the People's Party website. And the reason why I'm so curious is because if this hasn't happened already, I want to go counter-protest. There's very few things I love more than street activism. I love protests. I love just standing out there with signs and shit. So let me see if the People's Party, because they were going to have one in Denver, so we could get the LP Colorado to counter-protest. So events. So let's look at their events page. Welcome and onboarding call. I think I'm going to join one of those welcome and onboarding calls. I don't know. Would that be unethical? Because I'm really doing opposition research? But I am interested in them. I suppose if as long as I was honest. March, Medicare for All, July 24th. The website is M4M4All, the number 4. Okay, I'm going to organize a counter protest. Let's look at this website. Let me see if I can pull it up so we can look at this. Check out their website. And see if any of you guys will be interested in this. Okay, so let me start a new scene. Okay, no, that's not doing it. How do I start a new scene? Oh, sorry, I did the wrong thing. Okay, start a new scene. It's hard here because I don't, here we go. So you should be seeing my desktop. So this is the Medicare for All site. Sorry, I'm going a little bit out of screen, but I'm looking at my laptop that's over on the other side of my armoire here. And my microphone's kind of in the way. So July 24th. I think I'm going to organize something for this. In 8 days. I'm not going out of town that weekend. Where's the Denver one? I don't see Denver. He said he'd be one in Denver. Oh, there's more. Holy shit. Y'all see Denver? They say, they pronounce it Salida in Colorado, but that's the Spanish word, I believe, for exit, which is not a good name for a town. But you'd pronounce it Salida, like Selena. But it's Salida, not Salida. That's such a gringo way to say it. Okay. Wheat Ridge, Colorado. That's where I did that fireworks protest. But I thought you said Denver as well. I'll go to Wheat Ridge. You see Denver on here? It'd be really weird if they didn't have one in Denver. Salida is a bit too far out of my neck of the woods, but I'd go there. He said Denver. Do anyone see Denver on here? Am I being stupid? Kenny, help me. Do you see Denver? I don't see how they would not have one in Denver. That's the biggest city. How will you have one in Salida and not have one in Denver? Wheat Ridge must be what they're considering Denver. That's not Denver at all. Well, let's look up the Wheat Ridge one. And Kenny, yeah, that's weird, don't you think? Not to have one. Wheat Ridge and Salida are both small. Okay, look, they said Wheat Ridge, but it's at the Colorado state capitol in Denver. You see what I'm saying? I clicked Wheat Ridge, which is a tiny town. Well, it's not tiny, but it's not a major city. And it's given Denver. That makes sense. At the state capitol. Oh, this is going to be fun. Come up with some slogans for me on how awful government, like signs will be like, you want the DMV to run your health care? Yeah, I need crap like that. Help me out. And I'll make those signs. Okay, but let me see what the Salida one is. Salida just drives me crazy to call it Salida. Salida. Now I'm getting confused. Salida is the way you pronounce it. Salida is the right way. Oh my God. They're confusing my Spanish. Spanish almost always has the emphasis on the second syllable. No, that actually is there. Okay. I don't know why they say Wheat Ridge. All right. Let's do it. Look for your cities. Let's plan something. We'll do a whole video and stuff. The last time I was at the Capitol, I was wearing my plague mask. I love frickin' protests more than nearly anything in the world. Okay. Close that. Let me go back to my screen. Oh, wrong thing. You can see now where I'm editing a Dave Smith video. Back here. Okay. I'm getting clips for another video. That's what had why Dave Smith was up. And look, it reloaded the chat. So me not changing scenes, it didn't keep the chat loaded. All right. I can't figure out a way to do that then. That's too bad. Okay, does that sound like fun to anyone else? Sounds like fun to me. Am I the only one who just loves holding up signs? Okay, let's get going now. All my yickety yakety is over with.
Just yesterday, myself and others with the People's Party joined our national partners with the Poor People's Campaign at an action that was targeting Joe Manchin for holding this up, for essentially being the one who is keeping us to preventing billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in infrastructure, much needed infrastructure, from passing with the White House and the rest of the Democratic parties, most of the Democratic parties blessing.
Okay, see how it didn't go smoothly to the scene? Because I was like, oh, I was going to be all clever and let the chat load, so I'm just going to delete them as I play them and go, nope, didn't want to do that. Okay, so I think I put these out of order because that was kind of in the middle of the call, but he's complaining, and we'll get more into this, about how the Democrats aren't using their power, allegedly. But you'll notice in that clip, he mentions infrastructure. The left has completely redefined infrastructure. It is maddening. You'll see it throughout this whole video. They do refer to it properly, like roads and bridges and shit, but now everything is infrastructure. I'm putting on my primer. Oh, and I forgot to, in the intro that I did, another way you can support me, of course, super chats are always welcome. YouTube ad revenue is like nothing. Where YouTube actually does well for me generally is super chats. But because I'm like so egalitarian, it really doesn't get you any kind of extra privileges. I mention almost everybody, super chat or not. But if you like to help, you enjoy the content, I really do appreciate them. Okay, so let me delete this other scene. I'm not going to set them up like this ever again because it didn't help with the chat window. So let's go to the next one.
And they informed us that, in fact, Congress is, the House and Senate buildings are not even taking any visitors whatsoever who aren't approved by a member to come and speak to them. And so it's another way in which they've kind of isolated themselves and shut themselves off from their constituents.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like the way I did this time. because, and I really do think I got these clips out of order. It really doesn't matter, but.
And when it came to.
Okay. Alrighty. And thank you, Olga. I love these. This brush is like the best brush ever. I got this forever ago, but it's one of those really densely packed ones. I don't know what brand it is. I know it wasn't terribly expensive. It looks like it says, where's my glasses? I can't even read that. Oh, RT. Real Tech or something? Well, whatever RT is, I only know that is Russia Today. It's definitely not a Russia Today brush, but whatever RT is for makeup brush. Look how well it blends. It's so wonderful. But okay, so isn't that interesting? You now cannot even just go to visit the legislatures. You have to be on an approved list. Look what that dumb thing that they're calling an insurrection, which wasn't an insurrection. These people wouldn't know an insurrection if it blew up their home, because insurrections tend to like be violent like that and blow up stuff. My dog is totally trying to squeeze in here. I see this nose sticking in. Just go over the bed, silly. Man, the beagles are dumb as a rock. Oh. But anyway, so yeah, you can't even get in now. That's how scared they are. You can't even get in unless you're on an approved list. That's another fallout of the Village People cosplay rejects invading the Capitol and them calling it an insurrection when actually they were only there to like take stupid selfies. Oh, you're seeing all my makeup brushes back there. I got a million brushes. I got more brushes over here. And for these videos, I take out everything I need and I put it on a tray. So I'm not hunting for it and making all kinds of noise. Yay. And then I kind of put it away as I go because I'm like freaking anal like that. But yeah, January 6th was not an insurrection. But it's closer to an insurrection than the Hispanic Panic by conservatives claiming illegal immigration is an insurrection. True that. And what you had said earlier about the country being much more Hispanic than some conservatives want to mention, to me, that's never been a surprise. Like, I've always known that because I grew up in South Florida. And South Florida, Spanglish is a second language, you know, and I love it. I'm like absolutely in love with the Spanish language. If I had more time, I'd become fluent. I know enough words to be dangerous. Let's go to the next one. I'm going to be doing my contouring while this is going on. So if you see something weird.
And when it came to reconciliation and whether the $15 minimum wage could be included in that, we did not see Kamala Harris challenge the parliamentarian, did not see the Democrats challenge the parliamentarian that ruled that it couldn't be. We also did not see Bernie or the squad demand its inclusion. In fact, it's come out that Jayapal was telling them to stand down. So it's a consistent pattern inside the Democratic Party, and it shows the limits of attempting to reform the Democratic Party and the way that people inside the Democratic Party, they may not take corporate money. Members of the squad may not take corporate money. Jayapal may not take corporate money. But at the end of the day, they're working in a corporate party structure, and they're working in a structure that prevents them from getting any progressive demands done.
Okay, let me go back here, and this will not be so awkward next time. I keep saying I don't like what I did. And why isn't the chat coming up? Oh, here it is. All right. Yeah, and I'm working on my contouring here. I'm blending. Now, I find it so funny that he argues against the abuse of power from the right, but meanwhile, he wants the left to smuggle in things that have nothing to do with infrastructure. Like, he wants to smuggle in $15 an hour. He wants to smuggle in Medicare for all, and I find that so freaking hypocritical because he screams... he screams when the Democrats he doesn't agree with smuggle things in that he doesn't agree with. And he screams when the Republicans do. But all of a sudden he wants the squad and Bernie to do the exact same things. That is so unprincipled. Now, that whole thing with arguing with the parliamentarian, I heard parliamentarian, I immediately perked up because, you know, it sounds very LP to me. And he's very upset because the squad didn't challenge Ooh, that's a bit too much. That's a bit too extra. Because the squad didn't challenge the ruling of the parliamentarian. Now, I don't know whether it's different in the House or the Senate. But typically, parliamentarians don't make rulings. They advise the chair, who I would assume is the speaker, and then they make rulings. But it seems like each time I've ever heard about the legislative parliamentarian, that the parliamentarian themselves makes rulings. If anyone knows that, please let me know, because I'm really curious about that. But he's very upset. He's very upset that the ruling wasn't challenged. Now, perhaps they didn't challenge the ruling because they agreed with it. That's a problem I have with the LP, is people challenge the ruling of the chair. And now I'm going to put some primer on the lids. This is NARS primer. It is so sticky. I mean, it holds eyeshadow like a mofo. Oh, JJ says, it's the same in the House and Senate. They do not make rulings, though they are rarely ignored. Oh, unlike our parliamentarians. Okay. Thank you for answering that, JJ, because that just really bothered me. Now, so on the LP, we routinely overturn rulings of the chair, even when people know they're correct, and I just think that's unprincipled as hell. So, not that I'm going to give the squad any credit for being principled, but I don't know. They have their own principles. I suppose they just don't agree with mine. But maybe they didn't challenge it or argue because they agreed. You know, sometimes rulings that go against you are right. You can't decide whether you like or, you know, whether a ruling's right or not, depending upon whether or not it suits your self-interest. That is the definition of unprincipled. So, I want to go to the next clip. I'm having to delete them as we go because of the way I set this up is so funky. Where's my delete box? Okay, right there. Okay. Now let me go to the next one. I won't set it up like this again.
My name is Joe Burnham, and I am a member of the Regenerative Culture Circle.
Doing my under eyes now.
Just want to talk for a few minutes about regen, and not only what it is, but what we do. So I want to start off with a quick couple definitions of regenerative culture. The Bloom Network says regenerative cultures create the conditions for more life, more diversity, more resilience, and anti-fragility. Extinction Rebellion says regenerative culture is a collection of practices and principles that aim to leave you and your fellow rebels better off physically and mentally than you were before. So with those two definitions in mind, I have a simple question for you all to think about at home. Who is a part of regenerative culture? And the simple answer is all of us. If you have them available, take a look at your community agreements. We declare ourselves to create a culture of care, respect, and healthy collaboration and teamwork. It says we embrace diversity and avoid perpetuating violence against one another, whether it be physical, emotional, psychological, or spiritual. It says we aim to foster a compassionate environment that supports and uplifts people. All of that is regenerative culture. In other words, in the big picture, regenerative culture isn't so much about something NPP does. Regenerative culture is who we are, or at least that's who we aspire to be. Because if we want to be honest, living that way is hard. It's hard when you're in your working groups, hubs, circles, or committees and you're facing disagreement. It's hard when the systems and structures that give us guidance and direction are slow to develop. It's hard when you run across that person who just rubs you the wrong way and starts posting again in your Slack thread. It's even hard when you give everything you've got to a movement that you desperately believe in, and it leaves you absolutely exhausted.
Oof, I know that feeling. Okay. All right, I said, oof. When he said that absolutely exhausted when you give everything to a movement you believe in. Oh my God, I know that feeling. But yeah, Olga, it does seem like an infomercial. Oh, Xena, my dog is just back and forth, messing everything up. Dumb. Beagles are dumb as a rock. It's all olfactory in that head, no brain. But they aren't really pushing the Democratic Party. They talk about the Democratic Party a lot because a lot of them come from that. And they still have post-traumatic stress disorder from being in there. I got such tiny eyelashes. I curl them and I feel like it's done nothing. They never grew back. I once pulled out all of my eyelashes. I tried these lash extensions. I used Lashify, which goes under the bottom. Well, I tried these kind, I can't remember, Moite, I think they were called, that go on top, but they like glue to the top of your lashes. And I didn't put the glue release on, and I yanked all my eyelashes out. And they never grew back properly. I need to put on some growth serum. And yes, Xena as the mighty princess, born in the heat of battle. Her courage will save the world. I do put castor oil on them, and it's not helping. And I won't use that, like, Latisse stuff, because here she comes again. What a dummy. Because a little known side effect of Latisse, it can, if you have, whatchamacallit, if you've got light eyes like I have green eyes, Latisse can turn your eyes brown. So I have, here she comes again. Xena, do you want to say hi? Is this what's going on? You want to be a YouTube star. You're too big for this. Here is the warrior princess herself. You can see in the eyes, they're completely vacant. There's no brain. She's just all cuteness and all smell. All olfactory. Okay, now go mind your business. Go on the bed. Go on. There you go. She's such a sweetheart. She's a rescue. She used to be Jay North's dog. Okay. And not that he abused her or anything, but they went life on the road in a fifth wheel, and she just wasn't adjusting well. So she ended up being our dog. Not a rescue like my older dog who's been traumatized. Like, we don't know what happened to him. We got her when she was really young, like 3. The best dog in the entire world. The most gentle dog you'd ever meet in your life. Not a mean bone in her body. There's also not a brain in her body either. Okay. So what was I saying? So Latisse can turn your eyes brown if you have light eyes. So that's why I don't do Latisse. So what were we? Oh, regenerative culture. That certainly sounded like a buzzword, didn't it? But what I heard, I was reading between the lines there. They've had a lot of drama, go figure. A small, incestuous little pool of political activists. I don't know anything about drama and small pools of political activists. Know nothing about it. Never heard of it. So they're starting to go through what we go through on the daily. You heard him saying how it's so hard to be regenerative when someone keeps posting the same shit in your Slack group. I'm like, yeah, you got them too? Huh. So I guess we got the commie trolls he's dealing with. So, yeah, it seems like a bunch of new age hoo-hoo to try to calm the drama in their movement. But in a way, I also understood what he was saying, but not from political speech, but from religious speech, actually. Regenerative culture is actually a religious term, and a lot of like seeker-sensitive churches use that type of terminology. So I just found it kind of funny the way he kind of mixed in religious hoo-hoo. And I don't mean that as an insult. I'm a religious person. But this whole, we're regenerating the culture through our presence. And they did this weird thing at the end of this call. I should have clipped it out. They do weird closing rituals. Like sometimes they'll have poetry. Sometimes they'll have interpretive dance. Like, I shit you not. At the end of this call, they had this guy go, stand up. Now, pay attention to your feet. Feel how your feet are centered on the ground. Center yourself in the earth and where you're at and in the moment. I was going, oh my God, just kill me now. I should have clip that out for the end of this and had us all do their little regenerative, their little regenerative exercise. It was the corniest thing I had heard in a long time. But okay, let's go to the next one. I'm having to delete the prior clip as we go again because I set this up way too weird.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I'm very proud of the all-star lineup we've got in Colorado. Esria, Joe, keeping the regen ethos going in our state party. And actually, Joe and I are both here sort of pinch hitting for the chairs of a couple of our state standing committees that we've got up and running now, because we started our state central committee a while back, and our state rules committee and state platform committee are up and running. But as luck would have it, Curtis Helsley is the chair of our state platform committee. He's at the hospital tonight with his wife. They're having a baby. And Gabe MacArthur is the chair of the state rules committee. And he is with his sister and brother-in-law, also at a hospital, because they're having a baby. Because people will go to any length to get out of public speaking. This is evidence of it. I don't know if it's the same hospital, but we have a deep bench in Colorado. And so Joe is going to talk with you a little bit about the work the State Platform Committee has got going on. What we're doing in the State Rules Committee is we have the job of proposing the amendments that are necessary to our bylaws to add the things that our state law says we have to have by the time we become a political party. Like to really spell out how the nomination process will work for candidates and things like that. Plus just fixing some things to make them better, to make them more the way we want them to be. You know, the template that some of you may be already working with in your states, I tried hard to not try to imagine for you what your state party ought to look like. So it's kind of bare bones and pretty sort of just right out of the box. And already we've found some things that we want to change to make it a little easier to work on the bylaws, for example. So Rules Committee is where we work on what those proposals are. We come back with the draft language and Rules Committee votes to recommend the adoption of those amendments. And when we have our State Central Committee meeting next Monday, the Rules Committee will be one of the committees that reports to the whole body of the state committee, and we'll report about the proposed amendments that we've got lined up. And that's our process for making the party work the way that we want it to work. And I think, Joe, is it too far out of bounds if I said the platform committee is about making the state party say what we want it to say, to stand for what we want it to stand for?
Absolutely. And so every state is different. Every state has a different vibe, a different culture, a different context. I mean, in Colorado, we are the state that was the first in the nation to legalize weed. We are also the state that elected Lauren Boebert. So, you know, we sort of live at both ends of the spectrum in Colorado, and we're trying to figure out how do we communicate the values and the ethos and the ideals and the platform of the People's Party in a way that can be as winsome to a Bike Haven Boulderite or a Denver progressive or an eastern or western part of the region where it's very rural. And so how do we connect with all of those different people, and how do we highlight the values of who we are as a party to these very, very different segments of the population, and actually bring them into the same room because, well, we're regenerative, so we value diversity.
Oh my God. We're regeneratives, whatever. Listen, can I just be a degenerate? Can we just get it over with and just let me be a degenerate? Okay, I don't want to be a regenerate. It is such culty language. Say, just FYI on the makeup thing here. I've got some glitter eyeshadow. I've never tried glitter eyeshadow before. It's very like glitter bomb loose. I'm not so sure how this is gonna work. I've got some water in a little dish here. I know this looks like, doesn't this look like a contact lens case for giants? I just love these. I got them from Wish. But that's exactly what it looks like to me. Like contact lens case for giant eyeballs. It's really for like when you're doing your nails for the monomer and the acetone, but whatever. Though I don't know about putting acetone in plastic. That doesn't sound too wise. But I put my monomer in there and I put alcohol in there. But yeah, so I've got water. So I'm going to try to dab on. I also got this stuff. What is this called? I think this is for putting on glitter. It's called... No. This is MAC Prep and Prime. This isn't what I wanted. Uh-oh. Where'd I put my... Oh, here it is. This is from NYX. It's called Multitasker Mixing Medium, and I think that's what this is for. I've had it forever, so I guess we'll find out. I don't know. Oh, and I got this glitter, too. But this... Oh, no, this is kind of loose, too. It's kind of like a copper, so I got this pink. I've got this copper. And then check this out. I've got this gold, but look at this. The lady, so it's wet already. Look, it's all like goop. Isn't that weird? I'm not so sure I like it, and it's big chunky glitter. And I also got these little things in case I want to stick any on my face, which I don't think so. All right, so yeah, I do wonder how they follow their bylaws, Kenny. I'm interested. I want to get my hands on their bylaws. So I think after the show, I'm going to look up the Colorado People's Party, see what I can find on their website. I'm dying to get my hands on their sample bylaws that this dude said he wrote for all of the states. Oh, and you don't use a brush when you're using the water. You use an old-fashioned sponge thing like that comes in the drugstore makeup, even though none of this is drugstore makeup. Well, NYX is drugstore. NYX is actually very good for how cheap it is. Oh, and I got more glitter here. So I've got this glitter too. I've got all kinds of glitter. All right. This is going to be fun. Hope I don't spill it everywhere. I'll have glitter in my house forever. Yeah, so I'd love to see their bylaws. But what I didn't like, did you notice something there? How they passing bylaws changes? They're passing bylaws changes by having a bylaws committee recommend it to the state central committee, who then passes it. What the fuck ever happened to passing things at convention? Are they only doing this because they're not formally organized yet? And then they're going to have their first convention in which they ratify the bylaws? Or is it always going to be so top down? I'm very, very curious about that. I was hoping everyone noticed that. I'm sure most of you guys did, because you know how I am about that kind of stuff. But I'm going to try to get a hold of their bylaws. And I'll get you a copy, yeah, Kenny, if I get them. And we'll go over them on the show, because I'm very, very interested. Might be something worth ripping off. Okay, I'm going to start working on this glitter while we go to our next scene.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I'm very proud of the all-star lineup we've got in Colorado. Ezria, Joe, keeping the regen ethos going in our state party. And actually, Joe and I are both here sort of pinch hitting for the chairs of a couple of our state standing committees that we've got up and running now, because we started our state central committee a while back, and our state rules committee and state platform committee are up and running. But as luck would have it, Curtis Helsley is the chair of our state platform committee. He's at the hospital tonight with his wife. They're having a baby.
Oh, did
and
this
Gabe
already.
MacArthur is the chair of the state rules committee. And he is...
Okay.
If you're in Ohio, now's the time.
Sorry.
Please sign up to volunteer if you want to get in on this. And if you want to get in on, building a major new party in Ohio, just like they're doing in Colorado and we're doing in every other state in our nation.
Okay. I'm sorry that I played that one clip twice. I don't really like how this is sticking, but we'll work on that again in a minute. This stuff is kind of weird. You see this? Look, it's like it's like jelly. I don't think you're ready for this jelly, but yeah. Now, something that really annoyed the hell out of me that they say over and over, and I think it's fraud, and people who have left the People's Party had said they didn't like it either, is they keep saying, we're building a major new party. No, you're not. You're building a new party. It may be a major party. It may not. Stop promising people that. You cannot know that. That's like being pregnant and saying, I'm giving birth to the next Einstein. Well, maybe, but there's no guarantee of that. All you know is you're having a baby. You don't know what that baby's going to turn out to be. And it's the same thing here. You're not building a major new party. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. And I can't seem to get the lid off this glitter. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to use then this loose glitter. Fuck it. But I want to at least even out that eye with that some of that same color. So let me try to at least get a little bit. I think there's like some plastic wrap in there somewhere, like in the top, that I need to pull off. But let's at least put a little in this corner of the eye with that same color if we can. But yeah, that drives me so crazy, and that is fraudulent. It doesn't work that way. You can't just, poop out a major new party. You can't just get a new party just because, a major new party just because you wish for it really hard. God. Okay. Let me try to delete these duplicative ones that I keep playing over and over by accident. So delete 1, delete 2. I know I keep saying this, I won't set it up this way again. I hoped it would help. Okay, here we go.
I think that just WFP, I think, does the Working Families Party, if that's what they mean by WFP, have any plans on promoting candidates to primary corporate Democrats or Justice Democrats, if in the Working Families Party's eyes, either doing enough are doing enough to push the agenda that WFP endorses. This might be outside the scope of our knowledge.
Yes, we are, of course, the People's Party. That seems like a question that should be directed to the Working Families Party, a different party. Of course, the Working Families Party, I believe that they do challenge some establishment Democrats here and there, but the difference between us and them is that they are not looking to replace the corporate parties, and we are. We believe that we need a major new party to take off. We also believe in bringing together a working class coalition that can do that, and bringing people together around policy, particularly those economically populist policies that Bernie Sanders ran on, like Medicare for all, free public college, $15 minimum wage, jobs guarantee, basic income. Those things have 60, 70, 80, 90% support across the country, mass support. And so there's a huge vacuum left by the corporate parties in terms of the policies that they don't talk about that they don't support because it would challenge their corporate donors. And that's where we're organizing. They've created an ocean of independents that is now almost as large as both the Democrats and Republicans combined nationally. And of course, there's a record high number of Americans who are calling for a major new party, almost 2 out of every 3.
Okay, let me go back up. Okay, put on some of that goopy gold. We'll see how that works. I want to just put it in the center here. Let me just get that on there, and then I'll get to talking again. That's not enough. So yeah, there they are with the new party thing again. Now, I don't know much about the Socialist Workers' Party, but I doubt what he said was accurate. He said, oh, well, the Socialist Workers' Party don't want to replace the Democrats or the Republicans. I bet you they do. They just are probably a bit more realistic about it than you are. Just because they don't have delusions of grandeur doesn't mean that that isn't what they ultimately want. People start and join small political parties because they actually are very devoted to them and believe in them and would like to see them take over. But just because they aren't using the grandiose language that you guys are doesn't mean that isn't what they would want. You know? Oh, that's pretty. Okay. Whoa, now I got it all on my forehead. That's not pretty. This kind of burns a little, though. Yeah. So, yeah. And I think the Socialist Workers' Party are also trying to build a populist working class. I mean, it's in their name. I mean, I don't know that much about them. So, but I'm just guessing. Like, that just seemed awful belittling, didn't it? To anyone but me? Is it just because Nick Brana, he's so punchable. It drives me crazy. I don't know. But I didn't see why he needed to talk like that. And he's going to irritate you even more in a bit of what he's going to say for the implications it has for the LP. I'm trying to get more glitter out here. I don't know what's going on with my glitter. I want to put a little of this like copper up along the top. Okay. So whatever's in the wetness of this gold is burning my eyes.
So let's see. One last question. I was going to answer in the chat, but maybe some people have some broader thoughts on it. What is MPP doing to bring Bernieites into MPP? And I mean, I would say we're doing outreach in general, and Bernieites are usually, I think there are plenty and many Bernie supporters or former Bernie supporters in MPP. So that's kind of our low-hanging fruit of people we've been reaching out to. So other than doing general outreach, I didn't know, Todd or Michelle, if you could speak on anything specifically we're doing out to reach out to Bernieites, because it's not like unfortunately, I don't think we can just jump on his Slack and solicit MPP.
We definitely have a lot of folks here that at least many people I've spoken to that either were volunteers for a Bernie campaign or supportive of Bernie. There's lots of like-minded folks. I think when it comes particularly to the platform that Bernie ran under, a lot of issues. And so I think we're open to working with all the folks who are like-minded on those particular issues. And so Bernie folks and many others. So that's what I would say going forward. I know we have many folks here that have history that were maybe delegates or again volunteers or that have sort of reached out to their networks. But that's true of sort of anyone we're organizing with, just reaching out to whoever we know and bringing in as many voices as possible as we build forward. So anything else you wanted to add there, Todd, or anyone else? Okay.
Nope, you said it pretty well.
Okay, let me go back up. Okay, that was a non-answer. And they do want Bernie folks because Bernie's been the biggest letdown to them. Most people don't know or have forgotten that the Movement for a People's Party started out as the Recruit Bernie campaign. And then when Bernie made it clear he's not starting his own party, they went off into their own party, but they still are in a bromance with Bernie, and they feel very much like they're the jilted lover because Bernie just never joined their cause. Nick Brana used to be high up, at least he says he was. People who have left the People's Party have said he's exaggerated his role. I don't know. But they're all originally Bernie bros. Okay, now what I've got here, this is from Be Same Cosmetics. It's an old style, but it's new, but it's cake mascara, where you put water on it, and you take this little brush, and you mix it into a paste. And this is how they used to do mascara in the olden days. And you just put your mascara wand in there. Now, I'm not using it for mascara because I'm going to put on fake lashes, but they also did their eyeliner this way. So I'm making a little paste, and then that will be my eyeliner. And it doesn't get the bacteria in it the way, so once the paste dries, you can reuse it. And you get like a little brush here. So if you go to Be Same Cosmetics, they got all the like old school stuff, and I love it. And it lasts forever. You never have to throw it out because it's not like mascara where you're supposed to get rid of it every 3 months. And it just, works just like with a brush, like it. Ooh, I'm picking up some glitter, like a liquid eyeliner. And they have it in brown I only use it as eyeliner because I don't have enough lashes for mascara, but it works very well as mascara as well. And you just, you know, get your own spoolie. You know, this is, I think, the one that came with it. Oh, no, actually, this is the one that came with it. It was in a nice wooden gold thing. Okay. Oh, crap. I don't remember what clip I ended with. Let me see. I might start one again accidentally. Is this the one I started with?
I don't. And then,
Oh,
Nick,
yeah.
I don't know if you're ready, if you have energy left.
Oh, no.
Most countries don't have just.
Wait, stop.
I don't.
Did I do this one?
And then, Nick, I don't know if you're ready, if you have energy left to give us a good pep talk. But this question, I think, is going to maybe need a pep talk from you. Basically asking is, you know, systemically, is it realistic that we can win as a third party? So I know it's a question you get all the time. So if you can bring the pep talk and the fire on that.
Oh, bring it on, my friends. Bring it on. For the last 4.5 years, we have fielded this question. It is not only possible, it is necessary, because for the last several decades now, there has been a complete unmooring of our political system from anything that represents the people. Jesse Jackson gave a fantastic speech at the Poor People's Campaign event where he got arrested for the first time in 30 years, I believe it was, in DC. And he said that he made a point that Noam Chomsky has made, and that is that the Democrats of today are the Republicans of the Reagan era, or more conservative, and that the Republicans have just fallen off the political spectrum in how conservative they've become. And so we have to think.
Okay, I've got to stop there. That's just utter bullshit. The Democrats of today are not the Republicans of the Reagan era. I mean, the parties have shifted, but that is just complete bullshit. Diana, I'm going to talk about webinar mode at my 9 o'clock stream when I'm doing LP stuff. So if you can either tune in then, or and I'm so sorry you're having a rough day, or watch that one again later. But that's just complete, utter bullshit. And yeah, the Republicans have changed. I don't know what they are. But the Democrats are not Reagan Republicans. That's crazy talk. I'm not sure I like what I'm doing with my eyeliner here, but I'm going with it. I like trying new stuff. Okay, but let's continue. Oh, and also, it's not only possible, it's necessary. Well, really, they only asked about possible, because it doesn't matter how necessary something is if it's not possible. And win what? He's talking about winning the presidency. He's talking the whole thing. This dude's got an ego.
Every election, the media and the liberals, they come at us, and there's a deafening chorus about how we can't vote for what we need as working people and what we deserve in this country. When in this country, we don't have things that other countries that are far less wealthy consider human rights. We don't have healthcare as a human right. We don't have pre-K as a human right. We don't have paid sick leave as a human right. We don't have college as a human right.
You don't have human rights to other people's resources. And you don't vote for things you need. You vote for the government to get the fuck out of the way. In other words, we haven't been able to force our will on other people the way they've been able to in other countries. This gets me so angry. We haven't been able to vote hard enough to steal. Ah!
Other countries that are much less wealthy have those. Every other wealthy country has a version of a single payer system. Virtually almost every other country in the world affords its workers paid sick leave, and we don't. And so we have to stop looking at elections in the way that the liberals and the media want.
You need to stop looking at elections like your happy looting ground where you get to rob from everybody. I don't care what other countries are doing. I don't. Look at how much they're paying in taxes. Oh my God, it's this sense of entitlement. This is why I say he's so punchable. Because when he gets on this sort of thing, I'm just like, envy is one of the deadly sins, dude.
And that is every election as just existing in a vacuum. The elections don't exist in a vacuum. Every time that we succumb to lesser of two evils voting, we are accelerating and continuing a process that is now very rapidly leading us towards authoritarian oligarchy in this country.
And what you want will lead us to a different type of totalitarianism. I can agree with you that, and this isn't too bad. It's like this little Egyptian look I got going on, huh? I agree with you that totalitarianism is bad. I wish you applied that across the board. And after he's done with his little spiel, I am going to go to comments because I see they're flying by.
Of that shift of both political parties to the right. And the political structure that we have here in the United States is a complete aberration internationally.
Okay. I'm on the third one down, so remind me I need to go to the fourth one down when I go back. Okay, I gotta keep this eye closed while I'm letting that little bridge. See, I've got hooded eyes. That's why it looks weird when I close them, but it looks like a normal wing when they're open. So let me just cover that while that's drying, because I gotta keep that eye shut. And I shut them both. That's just what happened. So you gotta put up with me talking with my eyes shut. I'm going to try to keep one eye open. He's correct on the last point that our two-party system is an aberration, and that I will agree with him that maybe we should be looking at some of the systems at other countries if we're going to have voting to begin with, which I'm not a fan of. But let's go back to these comments. Hi, Chuck. Thank you. Oh, God, Kenny, I agree with you so much. I'm going to put this on the screen. So much this. I'm going to do a show on this soon because this drives me so crazy. The LP is not fiscally conservative and socially liberal. We're fiscally libertarian and socially libertarian. Exactly. We're not even part of that bird. And Olga is right. It's insane how they see corporate Dems are and want to explain it as a move to the right. And the fact is, for those of you who are my patrons, we're going through Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail in 72, and particularly the chapter I'm going to read later tonight, or at least summarize later tonight. That's what killed the McGovern campaign, was how corporatist, or at least in bed with big labor, that the Democrats have always been. Both parties have always been. And right here, Kenny, yep. Good ideas don't require force. The PP, the PP, I'm sorry, I'm so immature. Settle down, Beavis. Agrees with Democrats and Republicans when it comes to coercing people and imposing their will. Right, they're just big mad because it's not their will getting imposed. I'd have some respect for them if they were just upset about imposing wills in general. Joy said they never consider these countries are less wealthy because they tax their citizens at a rate necessary, right, to do their womb to tomb Papa state. And Olga raised an awesome point. Those wealthy countries use our tax dollars for their military. Exactly. And right, poor people in socialist countries are not living high on the hog, and there is very little upward mobility. Okay, I think I said I needed to go to the fourth one, but let me delete these first three so I don't get lost in my little column of, I know y'all aren't seeing what I'm seeing, but I need to talk out loud or I'll get lost in my own little program here. Okay, up to the fourth one.
Most countries don't have just two parties to choose from. Small countries with just a few million members in Europe, Denmark, Holland, they have a dozen parties. in countries of a few million people. And here in the United States, land of the free, where we're supposed to value choice, right, as a preeminent value of capitalism and democracy, instead, we are given two parties to choose from in one of the biggest countries in the entire world with 330 million people. How are Americans, all American views, supposed to be encapsulated by two political parties, especially when those two political parties are taking money from the exact same corporations and billionaires? And they're facilitating that move to the right, facilitating that loss of freedoms, when they're operating in a way that really shows continuity between them that supersedes their message.
Okay, there is some continuity between the two parties, but the Democrats are not moving to the right. You are a barking moonbat. The Democrats are not moving to the right. And nearly everything else he said I'd agree with, but I'm going to pick a little bit of a nit, because I think he was imprecise. We don't only just have two parties in this country. If we did, we wouldn't be talking about the People's Party, and we wouldn't be members of the Libertarian Party. I think what he's trying to say is functionally there's two parties. Really, if you want to get anything done, there's two parties. I just wish he had been a little bit more precise, but we know what he meant. But I just did have to pick the nit. We don't just have two parties. I mean, the existence of me and him just shows that already. We have more than two parties. But there's proportional representation in those other countries, and I wish he got to that, or at least some of them. And that's what facilitates breaking the duopoly, or evolving into a two-party system. Our system is designed to only have two dominant parties. It's a bug. I don't consider it a feature of the system. And those other countries have different types of systems that I think we would do well to look at. I agree with him there, but I just wanted him to be a little more precise. Okay. Let me delete that one and go to the next one and decide what I want to do with my eyes now.
Regardless of which party is in office here, the Democrats or the Republicans in control at the national or the state level, the cost of healthcare goes up. Your wages stagnate. The real value declines.
So you want to give government more power, and you think that'll fix it, huh? Have you ever thought that government is the problem? I'm not going to go to my other screen. I'm just going to leave it right here for right now, as I'm trying to do the Egyptian look. But I got it in my waterline there, and I don't like it because it's going to bleed into my eye. I don't really know how to fix that right now. I'm just experimenting. I'm not so sure I like this look, but I'm experimenting. But see how I got it all like up in here? Okay, that seemed to have gotten it down. I'm going to need to touch this up along here. Okay. We'll just put that there and we'll fix that. So yeah, he's right and he's wrong. Let me get my little touch-up brush. Let's go to the next scene.
The climate crisis gets worse. That's irrespective of party. And it's irrespective of even when the Democratic Party has full control over a national or a state legislature and the executive branch, as we see right now. Right now. Why are the Democrats debating with Republicans at all? Why is there a bipartisan infrastructure bill at all? The Democrats have full control. Do you think the Republicans, when they get full control, when Trump had full control, when they had control of the House and the Senate, that they bother to think, oh, we still want to put together a bipartisan bill?
Yeah, they did.
They don't give a shit about that.
Ooh, you cussed. Remove him. Where's the motion to suspend Nick Brana? He cussed. So, he's so big mad, isn't he? Because they're not stomping on the other people. Yet, what about all their lip service about including everyone and regenerative culture and we love and center your feet in the earth and all of that bullshit? No, it's certain people are the demons, I guess. I think we saw his zealotry come out there and it was a bit scary. But the fact is, particularly if you do listen to conservative commentators as well, which I do, a lot of them complain about the exact same thing, that there's too much kowtowing to the other side. But he gets way bigger mad about it than like Ben Shapiro does when the Democrats do it. I mean, the Republicans do it with the Democrats. See, like, I just don't like this side. So I'm trying to blend it a little. But let me give you one example of how, in fact, the Republicans don't take advantage when they have, well, a majority. Because there's certain things they say they want to pass, but they really don't. And I'm not saying I want them to do this, but I'm just going to give you a very classic example. Because I use this when I'm talking to Republicans who are considering the LP, and they tell me the reason they won't join is because of the abortion plank. And I go, what have the Republicans actually done when they've controlled all three branches? Have they made abortion illegal? They could. Or restrict it greatly? They could, but they don't, because they really don't want to. It's the same thing. He's acting like this is just a Democrat thing. It's not. Both sides do it. Okay, so now you guys see what you have to do when you have hooded eyes. See how it's like it goes whoop and then down. That's what you have to do. Let me take a look at comments here. Yeah, Kenny says, for 2 years, Kentucky had a Republican trifecta. First in a couple hundred years, and taxes and spending still grew. It always does. Government always grows, no matter what. So him to pretend like this is a Democrat thing. Only the Democrats are working together. Shut up. Okay. All right, I'm going to put on my lashes, I think, next. So let me find them. I think they're in here. Let me look before I start the next clip. I've got some pink lashes I want to put on. Yeah, check these puppies out. I don't know. These look like they're going to be uncomfortable, but let's try it. And I'm liking just keeping me little on the bottom here. It's making it easier.
Do you think that the Republicans, when they take the White House, when Trump took the White House, that they think, hey, what Democrats can we put in to show how fair we are? What a unity administration we are. They don't give a fuck about that.
Ooh.
Aren't we supposedly electing Democrats so that the Democrats can give us the things that they run on? In Obama's case, Medicare for all, getting money out of politics, expanding labor rights, tackling the climate crisis. Wow, it's a whole bunch of the things that Bernie ran on. And what did he do the minute that he took office? Reneged on all of those promises. And he went further. He had built an organization called Organizing for America, Obama for America, and he disbanded it. It was his grassroots campaign arm. He disbanded it. Instead of using it to bring people into the streets by the thousands, perhaps by the millions, elected with his incredible mandate in the wake of the Great Recession, he could have made any changes. Just like Biden, and just like Trump, frankly. When the pandemic hit, they had the popular mandate because people are so sick of how things work and they're so desperate in this country to change anything. And they didn't do it, completely squandered it. Biden comes in later. Biden's not even promising those things anymore. So the Democratic, he's promising less than Hillary Clinton and less than Obama. So the Democratic Party's literally going the wrong way. And they won't even adhere to the moderate promises they made. Progressives asked for $50,000 in student loan forgiveness. Biden said 10,000. He gave us 0. Wasn't in the budget. Struck it from the stimulus bill. He promised a $15 minimum wage. Everybody was for it. Heck, it's been in the Democratic platform since 2016. Biden was for it, squad's for it, everybody in between. And yet, when the time came, they didn't fight for it. Kamala Harris let them exclude it. The Democrats let them exclude it. And not even the squad and Bernie, who have Bernie has just as many votes as Manchin in the Senate. And the squad has enough votes to deny anything to pass along a straight party line vote. And yet they haven't used that. They're not coordinating. They've done interviews where they say that they're not coordinating on votes, except when it came to expanding the police budget, the defense budget for the Capitol itself. And then they coordinated to pass it, to expand police presence, which Biden's also doing. Biden is sending more weapons, military weaponry, off to local police departments than Trump was. He had his vice president go to Latin America and tell people don't come to the U.S. Trump when Trump did that, he got skewered for it. They're finishing the border wall. They're keeping kids in cages. None of that's changed.
Well, on that, he has a point. I had to abort those pink eyelashes. They were just cheap pieces of crap, and they weren't working out. So I'm trying to find my magnetic liner right now. Going to plan B. Had to dig around because I didn't have that prepared. But he's right on that point. But it's funny the way the progressives' love affair with Obama is over. But just because you guys moved far left, it doesn't mean the Democrats moved right. They just haven't moved left as fast as you have. Okay, this is allegedly magnetic liner. I've been very unhappy with magnetic liner. But you notice how he is saying that, we're supposed to be voting for Democrats because they're supposed to give us what we want. You can only be given something in that scheme at the expense of other people. Okay, let me see if I can get this eyelash on. See, it's sticking to my little grabber here. And I must have glue on there and not know it. I need to clean that, I guess. Because it keeps sticking to the grabber. And it shouldn't. Okay, that time it didn't stick. So let me position these. I think they're a little bit too big for my eye. Yeah, they're too big. I need to cut it down. I'll cut that. I need to cut that one corner off. Give me 1 second. I gotta do some surgery here. It sucks when you're blind, you know? Okay, cut that corner off. And there we go. That seems like it fits my eye a little better. What do you think? Okay. I don't know if I like these, but they're gonna have to do. Ooh, look at that. Woo! Okay.
So yeah, as everyone, as many people are aware, we have launched our candidates nominations portal. So there, and I'll share the link in the chat. There you can nominate somebody you know, somebody that you think would be awesome to run. Community organizers, activists, teachers, scientists, just people that are movement builders, people that you feel like has had an impact in your community, or you can sign up to nominate yourself as well. We are currently going through our processes to build up to support candidates in the future, and hopefully build up so that we can have future representatives across state houses, gubernatorial seats, Congress, and the presidency in the future. But with that being said, to support these candidates, just like the People's Party, every single People's Party candidate will be refusing corporate money. That's a mandate that our party has for anyone that's running on our slate that we endorse, that we support. That's one of our core values, is campaign finance reform. And with that being said, we expect candidates to refuse corporate money, and hopefully that will help with corporate influence.
Now, what's interesting here, while I fiddle with my eyelashes, I was trying to use that little extra piece I cut off as an anchor. I'm not sure if it worked, because I've got some other anchors here that I'll put on. They can ask their candidates, this is a frustration I have with the LP. They say, well, we expect our candidates to refuse corporate dollars. And they can certainly refuse to endorse any candidate who does, but they're going to find out, the way the LP has found out, that in many states, you don't control your ballot line, the state does. And for instance, as we learned in that Top 2 show with Washington, who doesn't, where you just put on the ballot, prefer Libertarian, prefer Republican, or whatever it might be, anyone can put that, and they don't get nominated at convention. So you can have someone who's completely opposed to what you stand for, who runs under, ooh, that one didn't work, who runs under your name. And in fact, oh God, look at that, pulled off. That's a sabotage technique that the old parties will use. So expect the Democrats in those states where anyone can run, fuck that up, where anyone can run on your ballot line without your consent. Expect the Democrats to run people, their own operatives, as People's Party people, and then take corporate money to try to disillusion or deceive people about what they stand for. The Republicans do that to the Libertarians, and I fully expect the Democrats will do that. Now, you can't do that in every state. Like, for instance, in Colorado, you can't run on the Libertarian ballot line unless you got the party's official nomination. But it's not that way in every state. And the states that don't have that, the old parties exploit it to dilute your brand. And they're going to find that out the hard way. And I feel bad for them for that, because to me, you should be able to protect your brand. It's a private organization. You should get to control who runs under your name. Some people think that's like super statist of me or super authoritarian. But the fact is, a political party is fucking statist. It's a creature of the state. So the very fact, we've already compromised with statism a little bit if we're doing the political process. Sorry. Not sorry, that's just reality. And we've got to use the system to protect liberty and our name. And they're going to have the same problem. So I'm gluing on magnetic lashes right now because I can't get the magnets to stick. I'm having a hell of a time though. I'm about to toss these in a minute against the wall. Stick, god damn you. Okay, I think they're sticking now. There we go. Woo! Okay. So they're going to have a lot of trouble with that. And I'm surprised that didn't generate any comments, that you guys didn't know those kinds of, or you already knew those kinds of dirty tricks happened. Because when I first found out, I was infuriated.
So we have to get with the program that the rest of the world has figured out. And that is that when you have two political parties, it's too easy to control them. It's too easy for big finance and corporations to control them, especially when you have the kind of unregulated financial campaign system that we have here in the United States, which is basically the Wild West, completely deregulated to a new absurd degree with super PACs after the Citizens United decision in 2010.
All right. Well, I disagree with him on that finance thing. People should be able to spend their money how they wish. But that's the nature of political authority. And, oh, my logo's trolling his head. That's funny. And, you know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. There's just some things that what's it from Monty Python? Behold the oppression inherent in the system. There's not too much you can do about that. Not and be free. Okay, I need to cut this down just like I did the other one. Okay, I made that one a little smaller. I think I cut it from the wrong end, but at this point, I don't give a shit. Okay, next clip.
So not only can it be done, it is possible. It is what the majority of Americans are demanding, 2/3 of them. It is what the nearly half of Americans who are independent want. And it is what we need. We need to break this cycle. Chris Hedges is fond of saying that in order to get out of this system, we may have to go into the political wilderness, even for a few years.
Try 50 years, bud. A few years. Yeah, you might. We certainly have, but it ain't gonna be a few years. I don't know. Maybe you'll prove me wrong. Maybe you guys will bring the commie utopia. You gotta be careful though when you're quoting what people want, because if 2/3 of people really wanted another option, we would have other options. They say they want it in a poll. That doesn't mean they actually want it, because there's plenty of other parties. It isn't like everyone was waiting for you to come along, dude, and be the savior. There's been third parties forever. If people really, really wanted them, they would be successful. And I know I didn't invent this, but I can't remember who I heard it from. But I remember learning this when I was growing up. There are people who claim to love things, and the example, or want things. And the example was given to me of sailing. Some people say they love sailing, or they'd love to sail. But they turn down every opportunity they have to actually sail. And they never take any steps, since they allegedly love it so much, to save and get a sailboat, or make friends with someone with a sailboat, or charter a sailboat. But they go around talking about how much they love sailing. And the fact is, they don't love sailing. They love the idea of sailing and not the actual thing itself. Just like there's people who are in love with being in love. They don't do so well with real love, but they walk around talking about how much they want to be in love. But when they actually have the opportunity, they blow it. They're in love with love. You're in love with the idea of something and not the reality. Okay, there we go. Woof. That's kind of gaudy. And same thing, I think, with a lot of Americans with this idea of more political choices. The choices are right before them, and they'll say on a poll all they want, a million times that they want more choices. But then when the opportunity actually comes, they don't pick them. So do they really want it? Do we believe what they say, or do we believe what they do? I tend to believe what people do, because talk is cheap. So his 2/3 thing, that's a bit of propaganda, I think. And it's the same thing where he claims these huge majority supports for some of his socialist programs. It all depends on how you ask the poll. People usually like the idea of free stuff on paper, and then when they're given the calculations of how much it will cost, then they don't like it so much, because oftentimes they're asked in this poll, they're not given the cost. And there's a difference in polling when they're given the cost. And even in Colorado, which got hit by the blue wave, we had a single payer thing on the ballot last time, and it lost. So despite all the alleged polling saying it would win, didn't lose by enough, but it lost. So he keeps claiming there's this majority support for all his programs. Well, if there was this widespread majority support, we would have single payer by now. There isn't, though, because once people know how much it costs, it's the people to whom it won't cost anything that are the ones voting for it in force. That's not always true. Some very rich people do as well, because they've got some kind of weird guilt.
I will share the link for a sign up that we have for whenever your state is ready to launch its petition, to become a party in the state, to get ballot access, that kind of thing, or whatever that party building stage is. In a lot of the states, about half of them, it's a petition process. You get a certain number of petitions signed, you can get on the ballot, become achieve party status in the state. So it's about half of the states that are that way, but there's also other ways, like in other states like California and in Maine, you can actually, and other states coming soon, you could already change your party affiliation to People's Party, Democrat or Republican or a Green or a People's Party, that kind of thing.
Hey. She got me mad. Democrat, Republican, or Green. Hello, lady. Did you forget? I'm going to be a little obnoxious here. Did you forget the third largest political party in the country? Which you guys are far from, even though one day you might be eating our lunch. Until you do, I am going to shove our weight in your face, even though we're just a big fish in a small pond. We still are a bigger fish than you, lady. So don't be, Republican, Democrat, Green. What? I think you forgot Libertarian. And I never did get a response from them. I told you guys, I think that I wrote them because Richard Winger was helping them out, because Richard Winger is just a genuinely good man and he's very interested in third parties. So he was helping them. And then in that same show where they were bragging about how they had this ballot access expert helping them without saying, he'll help anybody, they called Libertarians evil. So I wrote them and said, why aren't you refusing the help of Richard Winger if Libertarians are evil? Of course, I never got a response. They would have gotten a response from me if they wrote me. I try to write everybody back, unless it's obviously just stupid, or abusive. And mine wasn't either stupid or abusive. I think it was a very good point. Okay. Next clip, and we're going to move on to the lips.
The current political situation for trans folks in general is, how do I want to put this? Hard. It's hard. And when I say hard, I mean hard from a variety of perspectives. There's this idea, I think, in support of communities, people who really do genuinely mean well for our community, that the biggest problems we have are raging transphobic people with their pitchforks and their mean words on the internet. And don't get me wrong, those people are a problem. but they're not the primary issues that are facing us. In fact, they are a result, in many cases, of primary issues that we're facing. And those issues, as long as they continue to exist, will continue to promote the existence of people who have strong opinions about women like me or trans people in general. A lot of these problems are legal in nature, and they require a brave and strong platform dedicated to solving them and genuinely solving them. Not band-aids, not quick little fixes, real and genuine solutions that are meant to help everybody. Trans people have the same problems other folks do, but we have them turned up to such a high degree, or that other people don't know they have that problem. I'll give you a perfect example. Name changes. Name changes are actually a very common thing for cisgender people to do. Cisgender, by the way, means that you are the gender you were assigned at birth. That is to say, a doctor examined your body, saw some genitalia or didn't, and then made a decision about whether or not you were going to grow up liking Barbies or tanks. And more or less, they get it right, on the order of 95% of the time. Sometimes they don't, though. And fixing that doctor's mistake is very expensive and very difficult. To get your name changed as a trans person is often a humiliating process. You have to publish in a newspaper, you have to pay a lot of fees, all for the right to be called your own name, right? Medical access. In states like the one I grew up, they follow standards of care provided by WPATH that more or less require people who really don't have money or ability to find a therapist who's willing to sign letters saying they're sane enough to start transitioning. In Maryland, I was able to go to a doctor, sign forms that indicated that I understood what that medicine was going to do to my body, and then I had life-changing and life-saving medicine 2 days later, as soon as I could get it from my pharmacy. These are simple, solvable problems that stop trans people from being visible. And the more trans people are visible, the more normal we get. The more normal we get, the less people will grow up hating us. These are massive political and legal and social matters of infrastructure, and they come with huge consequences for us.
Okay, did you notice how she just redefined the word infrastructure? No, that's not infrastructure. And first of all, let me say, she's adorable. That's one reason I included such a big clip of her. I love her. She's adorable. And you'll see, she's very kind. And some of the examples she gave, I found were really fascinating. I don't stick my nose too much into trans issues other than supporting their rights, that the same rights everybody else has, because I don't understand at all. I've had some close friends that have been trans, so I understand the issues somewhat, but I try to stay in my lane because this isn't my life experience. But I found it really fascinating how she spoke about the difficulties of changing your name. And she's right. That is a problem that everyone can face. That should just be, you should be able, unless it's for fraudulent purposes, and I don't really know the legal ins and outs to avoid that, but changing your name should be routine. What's more fundamental than what you call yourself? That's why it really irritates me when people dead name trans people. It's like, show some just basic human respect. Call people what they want to be called. And don't give me that, well, I want to be called Queen Elizabeth. Don't be a dick. Okay? Come on. It's not that hard. But I thought that was such a good point because I have a friend who's poly. She was married to 2 men. Not legally, obviously. But in order to reflect her marriage, she went and changed her name to have a hyphenated last name with the 2 last names of the men she married. And it was a pain in the ass, and it cost her a lot of money, and it shouldn't, when if you got married to just one person, it's automatic and it doesn't cost you anything. And I also thought, when we're speaking with adults, I'm not getting into the trans kids thing. I don't have children. I don't have trans children. It's just not anything that I am qualified at all to talk about. But she was talking about, as a trans adult, that she wasn't forced to jump through a million hoops to get the medication she needed. And that's the way it should be. She shouldn't have to prove to somebody that she's sane or whatever. It's her body. So I loved what she had to say. I think I have one more clip from her. Oh, and I didn't tell you guys what it is. So I got my lipstick on and I put on setting spray. That's what this was. I forgot to tell you. We're going to do my hair next. I think I have another clip from her, and you'll see what a sweetheart she is. And so I need to see here. So let me move forward, and we're going to do my hair.
So Evie, you are so well studied in your areas, and you studied, and the interesting thing that I really found about your work was the way that you have that conversation about how people transition in society, and how to have those conversations with family, how to have that conversations with friends, but also how we have to have that conversation politically. And politically, when we want to be the representational party that stands behind LGBTQIA rights. And oftentimes what we have is we have a need and a necessity to facilitate those types of conversations, even inside our own party. And how do you feel the best way to approach that would be in a political manifest? How could you see us including our conversations as a political party? I know it's a little bit of a tough question to throw at you, but
it's not, actually. I think a lot about this question. I will never forget one of the messages I received actually inviting me to come here. And the person who was talking to me was very kind and lovely, but had this language of struggle and violence and rising up, right? And there's strength in that language. There's strength in the language of conflict. But I come from a totally different angle. I think this whole conversation needs a lot more love. I think it needs a lot more love. There's so much energy focused on the people who hate us that there's not enough energy being dedicated towards helping us live. We are often used, this is July, right? We're often used as what I would refer to as bargaining chips, which is to say we're useful as a group of people when politicians find us useful. And then at the end of June, all the rainbow flags go away, all the corporate logos change back, the trans flags come down from outside the senator's office, and things go back to normal. And the only time we hear about ourselves in the news is when something is going wrong. We need to keep that pride spirit year round. The trans flags need to stay up, and so do the LGBTQIA flag, right? But we need to keep love in the conversation. We need to keep acceptance in the conversation. We need to accept that there are people who have wrong learning, and that's the worst thing about them. A lot of those people are really genuinely good people who learn some truly horrific things.
Yeah.
And they can unlearn those things. I've seen it. I grew up in Klan territory. Like, I've seen it. I've seen people do better. I've seen my family do better. A lot of times, all it takes is knowing a trans person. That's why it's so important that there be more of us visible and allowed to be visible. And the other huge aspect of this conversation that's really important, is really perhaps the most important, is political parties very rarely emphasize putting trans people into positions of power to speak for themselves in their own internal infrastructure. I'm going to guess that most of the people in this panel are not trans in any way, shape, or form. I know of one person, but
You're correct. You're
yeah,
correct.
and that's a problem. I know you all have to elevate people who have experience.
Okay. So, Olga, I'm glad you saw the same thing. She's such a sweetheart, isn't she? I really love her. It doesn't mean I agree with everything she said, but she's just such a sweet spirit. And I love how she recognized that sometimes people just have wrong ideas. It doesn't make them bad people. And that sometimes it just takes knowing a trans person. I think I've always had decent views on this issue, but I've known a trans person, male to female, had sex change or sex reassignment surgery, but old school, like she goes from way back, like when it was really, really, really not accepted. So it was always somewhat normalized for me. And my trans friend was very open and willing to have hard discussions and didn't take offense at just things that were my curls didn't dry, so it's not good. They stayed wet. I need to just like sleep in these curlers overnight. And now my head's itchy. But so yeah, I think she's right, and I like how she resisted the demonization of people who just happen to have wrong opinions that might be good people. And I think she's right that trans people need to be empowered to speak for their own issues. Too many like 20-something, white SJWs think they get to, females usually with pink hair, sorry to say, or blue hair, think they get to talk for everybody. And the white savior complex is real. So I liked that she said that, but then also acknowledged, you also need to put people. Okay, I'm getting a little bit though of a curl here, like the messy, like curl. Ooh, it's like a little Marilyn, isn't it? I think it's a little Marilyn. I want to hold on. I want to get some hairspray, even though it's wet, to try to keep a little bit of this curl before we move on. Okay, next clip, and we're almost done.
About things that we are likewise focused on the national level. And so, as everyone who's been following the information on the infrastructure talks has seen, the Biden administration proposed a $2 trillion infrastructure bill, but could not wait to fold to a bipartisan bill, which of course means that even though the Democrats have full control in the House, the White House, the Senate, that the Democrats are going to allow the Republicans to essentially write the infrastructure bill, a $600 billion in bipartisan infrastructure bill that amounts to a big corporate giveaway. And it ignores issues that are critical, like broadband expansion, tackling the climate crisis, and robust modernization of our infrastructure, of roads, of waterways. And the idea that that can be done when it's estimated that that's going to take up to $10 trillion, that can be done with $600 billion, less than we spend on the military budget in a single year, is just ludicrous. It's an insult. Not just that, but the bill is essentially, the infrastructure bill is essentially a privatization scheme, of course, because that's what the Democrats and Republicans can agree on. And on top of that, we have the eviction moratorium that is approaching expiring on July 31st. And there's already been, even with the eviction moratoriums in place since March 2020 in Florida, for example, there's been 100,000 evictions filed. 100,000. with those moratoriums in place. So this is happening. There's all kinds of loopholes that are being exploited across the country. It continues to happen. But the number of people who will face eviction on July 31st is in the millions because they haven't been able to keep up with their rent, their mortgage. And in fact, just a year ago, we were facing the exact same cliff, July 31st, which is when the unemployment benefits were going to expire, passed in the CARES Act, and the eviction moratorium, the original eviction moratorium, was going to expire. So the Democrats and the Republicans haven't fixed a damn thing. They've just been kicking the can down the road. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of people continue to get evicted. And there's a new problem that is metastasizing now in housing in our country, and that is that you have investment firms and big banks buying up massive amounts of property. It's estimated 1 out of every 5 homes is being purchased now by a bank. And of course, they come and they buy up homes in cash, often above asking price. And so they're completely pricing out people who are looking to buy homes, driving up the real estate market, making it unaffordable, especially for young people who have a hard enough time because they're making the least. They face some of the highest unemployment rates, millennials, Generation Z. So the problems are just getting worse, and it's like a resurgence of what happened in the early 2000s with an explosion of the housing prices.
Okay, he said some things that were true. Now, it's funny, though. He had said earlier, and I didn't capitalize on this because I actually forgot, where he's like, oh, we had this emergency and the Democrats let it go to waste. I mean, you want to talk about being exploitative. How much more exploitative can you be? But, you know, that's also what he's saying here. And while it is a shame when people get evicted, listen, until recently, and it might happen again because I still don't have a job, even though I do this part-time, it's barely helping me stay above water with just necessities. Necessities meaning like toiletries and food. It's not paying my mortgage. And I had to sign a reaffirmation agreement because I was in foreclosure. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up those payments. I might be in foreclosure again. And I might be out of a house. But that's not my mortgage company's fault. It's not really anyone's fault. It's just life. If I can't afford the house, I can't keep the house. And believe me, I'm stressed fucking out. You know? The New Hampshire people kindly helped me raise money for 2 months worth of mortgage, or close to 2 months. And I'm pretty much out at that point. And if I don't get a job, and Wayne's employment, because he's a real estate broker, where I'm going to talk about what he's saying here, it's feast or famine. I don't know what we're going to do. So I commiserate, but I don't think the investors should, because I'm not in a good financial place, should have to, it's not their fault. So I get to put other people in a bad financial place? I get to transfer the misery? No, I don't. That's not how it works. So absolutely disagree with him there. They act like most landlords aren't individual people. Most landlords are not big corporations. My sister, in the last housing crisis that he brings up there, they had one little rental property and they lost it. And she got into a lot of trouble with that. Ended up losing a lot of money. And it's just my sister and her husband. They're not rich by any stretch of the imagination. They're upper middle class. They're better off than I am, but not by much. So, you know, while things can be, you can feel bad and things are a shame. Now, where he's correct, and I don't know what the answer is. I'm not even sure I know what the problem is, and I'll always admit when I don't know. what he mentioned about investment companies buying up all the homes, it's true. Whenever Wayne has a buyer, because he's both a buyer and a seller's agent, there is no inventory, particularly in the more affordable range. And affordable in Colorado is $400,000 to $500,000. That's affordable, okay? That's not, but you know, 500,000 and below. And every time they put in an offer, the traditional way where you've got a certain like much for down payment and you're going to finance the rest. And remember, your financing company, for those of you who don't know very much about real estate, they're only going to finance up to the appraised value. So when an investment company comes in, offers a cash, which means you can close immediately. You don't have to wait for closing, and sellers find that very attractive. They also offer above market value because they have the cash. They don't have to worry about an appraisal. And they are buying up all the inventory. There is no inventory in the 500,000 and below in Colorado. My husband is right now, he probably has a closing next week, but it took forever to find a house for his stepson, that he was helping his stepson and stepdaughter helped find a house now that they're empty nesters. And it was terrible because that's what kept happening, that the investment companies were coming in above market value. Now they're doing that because they can make money. What's causing this, I can't say I know. Wayne would probably be much more qualified, but there is definitely a housing bubble. We bought our house. Wayne says we bought it at under 300. I think he said we bought it at like 240, 250, maybe 245. My house is going for 400,000 now. That's insane to me. And it's not, I mean, it's middle class. Listen, I'm not going to act like I'm living poor. I might not have much money in my pocket, but I mean, the house is kind of run down, but it's a nice house. It's giant. There's 4 bedrooms, full basement, not finished. But, you know, anyone who's been, some of you have been to my house. It's not updated. You know, it's very 1990s, but, you know, I'm not complaining. But that's just crazy. So I've been here since 2016, I think. So in 5 years, it's gone up $160,000, $70,000. That's nuts. Absolutely nuts. So I mean, that's one blessing. If I end up losing my house, I'll end up with some money in the sale, but the bank's going to take a lot of that to go through foreclosure and all that. But we'll have to move out of Colorado because we couldn't afford anything here. Yeah, my house was built in 1991. We bought it in 2016 from the original owner. It's funny, my house in Florida was also built in 1991. I was the second owner there. Now, my house in Florida was only 1,400 square feet. This house is 2,200, not including the basement, I think, because the basement's not finished. But I only paid $80,000 for my house in Florida. But I sold it for $160,000, but I had it almost 20 years. So a doubling, well, slightly over doubling in value. And I bought it in 89. It wasn't 20 years. I bought it in 89 and sold it, I think, 2013. So yeah, almost 20 years, 15 years. But here, I've only been here 5 years. And it's crazy. It's just crazy. We are heading toward a housing bubble. That's why I'm not eager to refinance. Not that I could even qualify right now because my credit is shot. But even if I could, to take all that equity out, because what's going to happen is the housing prices are going to plummet again, and I'm going to have a mortgage for $400,000 in a house that's back to more reasonable price range of in the mid 200s. So we did refinance once and take out some money. I'm terrible money manager. For a libertarian, I'm terrible. I need to get better. I'm terrible. And I'm learning. I was never taught those skills growing up. And we did take some money out to pay credit cards. And of course, those credit cards are all up again. And I'm telling you, once I pay off these credit cards, I know I can't be trusted with them. I'm cutting them up. The mortgage company talk me into, oh, you gotta have credit to build credit, so just pay them. Yeah, I don't have the discipline. When I pay these cards off, I'm cutting them up and keeping one with a low limit and paying in cash because I just don't have the discipline. All right, I think I got one more clip.
And these kinds of issues are not being addressed by the Democrats or the Republicans. They're just being allowed to grow. And this is exactly why we're working on what we're doing. Somebody had asked, why are we building a major new party? This is why we're building a major new party.
A major new party.
Someone else asked, so because we have a few more minutes, I'll answer another question here. Someone asked, why are we building a major new party as opposed to going with an existing party, organizing with an existing party? And one of the reasons is that going back to the 1850s, in the successful example of a major new party being created, which was the Republican Party, which began as a radical abolitionist party, when that was created, that was the breakthrough party. But before the breakthrough party, there were preceding parties like the Free Soil Party, the Liberty Party. They came before, and they laid the groundwork for abolition. They helped spread the idea, popularize it before the Republican Party came about at a time of national crisis. And it actually managed to, after the election of 1852, when the Whigs forced through a pro-slavery platform, even though the base of the Whig Party was abolitionist, and that created a political crisis and a crisis in the country in which the Republican Party emerged. And it was the breakthrough party, but it was the Free Soil and the Liberty Party and other smaller independent parties that were abolitionists that helped lead the way and prepare the way for that breakthrough party. And so in that analogy, the Green Party and others have been there as kind of intellectual leaders for a long time, laying the groundwork, but it's not that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be the ones to form a major new party. Rather, that happens in our own history. That's happened with something new that comes about in that moment of crisis and takes off in the way that we are doing right now.
Okay, but and I guessed where he was failing. And then I just did a quick Google search to see if my guess was right, and it is. So he's justifying his bloated ego for why he won't join up with the Green Party or other things. And I've covered this in past podcasts with former PP members who are saying the exact same thing, where he goes, well, you need a few third parties to come back to prime the pump, and they don't make it to be a big party, but they're setting the stage for someone else to be a big party. Now, immediately what I thought was, were those former parties, and Kenny had a good point I didn't even think of, but we'll get to that. But I thought, were these former small parties full political parties, or were they just single issue parties? Because single issue parties never intend upon becoming a major party. So I went and looked it up because that was my guess. And guess what? I was right. Let me share my screen here. Let me do here and hit share. The Free Soil Party. The Free Soil Party was a short-lived coalition party in the United States. Largely focused on the single issue. It was a single issue party of opposing the expansion of slavery into the Western territories of the United States. Same thing with the Liberty Party. So they were single issue parties. You cannot say something that happened 160, 70 years ago with entirely different types of parties to say, this is why we don't join the Green Party and help them become a major party, because history has shown you've got to have a few third parties first that prime the pump. No, that isn't what that example shows. And Kenny also brought this up, which I didn't even consider. He's also forgetting electoral laws. There were few electoral laws. So the fact is, if, say, the Free Soil Party actually had a full platform and wasn't a single issue party, they probably would have made it to a major party. The time was right for splintering on the issue of slavery. So his justification for his ego is weak sauce. I mean, I just sat here and speculated and busted it. Okay, so that is the last clip I have. We are caught up. We are caught up with our commie friends. And I got a nice look out of it. What do you think? It's okay. It's okay. Not my typical. Not my typical. The hairdo certainly isn't my typical. I need to re-dye my hair because it's faded. And I'll update you guys about protesting Medicare for all. So let's come up with some slogans. So what did they say? That was next weekend. So I'm going to need to get some signs, going to need to get Colorado organized. But even if it's my own damn self out there protesting, I want to protest. I encourage you guys to do it in your cities as well. And film it. And I'll broadcast it on my station. I'll do like a collage of everybody's protest. So, all right, everyone, that is it. Let me close with my usual. Let me close the widget. There's my Patreon on the bottom. Nobody else is doing this kind of content. It's probably because it's never going to give me, a million view channel. I like being small because I like having my niche with dedicated fans, but then I do count upon a small group of dedicated fans. All right, everyone, I will be broadcasting again in an hour and a half, doing LP stuff and some more RCB stuff. And if Diana is still watching, or if she can watch later, I'll also talk about webinar mode with Zoom, as she asked me to cover that. All right, I'll see you guys in about an hour and a half.
Given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business.